Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WNBA Pickup Podcast. I am your host, Freddie Rivas. This show is usually hosted by Cathryn Naiker and me. Cathryn can't make this podcast. She just had a procedure and is healing up, so we wish Cathryn well. She's all good. In fact, she popped in about 10 minutes ago to make sure that the layout was not too compromised. So if you're watching on YouTube, it might be a little bit compromised, but it's workable. It's still good. And we have Crina Mustafa jumping in for Cathryn from her Hoop Stats. Crina, what's up? Thanks for joining.
Hey, Freddie. It's so funny because since I started doing more behind the scenes stuff with you guys now, and now I get to be on the podcast too, it's like the best of both worlds.
It is the best of both worlds, and I was laughing in my head that, yeah, okay. So for anyone, well, yeah, okay, just a couple of things. It's episode 97. Follow us on everything. At the Pickup Podcast on
98. It's episode 98.
episode 98. Oh my god, wow, huge. Just a quick mistake off the top, I'll make sure to keep them coming. But yeah, this is episode 98. Follow us at the Pickup Podcast on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, everything. Rate, subscribe, help us out, give us some love. But to that end, we have brought on Crina to help us with all things socials. So if you have noticed that the socials starting last week are looking better, sounding better, feeling smoother, that is because I officially am not the main person doing it. Crina is doing it and making it look great for us, and we're working with you. So please, even though she can't hear you, give a clap for Crina, wherever you are. I mean, if you're driving, hands on the wheel sort of thing. But yeah, Crina, thank you so much for joining us, and also now jumping into co-host.
Yeah, no, it's been super fun. Obviously I've been on the podcast before last summer, so happy to be back. And yeah, it's just so much fun. So I'm really excited to be here.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, it's a playoff episode, so I think let's jump right into playoff stuff because I'm jacked. It was a massive Sunday. I also in the back of my head, I was like, hell yeah, WNBA just going straight up against. I'm sure it's different fans, but just being it's football Sunday. I don't care. Um, I kind of just love that. It's the right energy. But I'm thinking we just start from game one and work through game four. Is that cool with you?
Sounds good to me. Also, I knew a couple of WNBA people that were double screening NFL with the W playoff games on Sunday, and I was just
Yeah.
like, we could just put the W games on. You can survive one
Right.
day without the NFL, but
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Just
fine. I'll allow it. I'll allow
just watch red zone highlights later,
it.
figure it out. I was actually shooting a music video for much of Sunday and watching, there's a lot of downtime, and I was watching the games, like when I wasn't in sort of the holding area, and a couple camera dudes came up to me and were like, "Hey, are you watching football?" And I was like, "No, I'm watching the W playoffs." And one was like, "Cool," and then I will be honest, the other two were stunned. They were both like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty great." And they're like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Yeah, you should check it out." So I was like, I think I'm doing my ambassador part, but yeah, okay. Let's jump into Atlanta, New York. So you're the host, you're the guest. I feel like I want to give you the floor here. Um, I have no particular agenda with any of these series, so let's just kind of go with, I guess, yeah, what was your first, yeah, what when I mentioned that game, what comes to mind? What jumped out to you?
I can't think about that game without thinking of Leonie Fibic moving into the starting lineup and Sloot kind of moving on to the bench. I think that was the biggest factor for the Liberty in this
Mhm.
game. She finishes with 21 points. She shot 100% from the 3-point line. Wow, I can't speak. She made 4 of them. She only missed one shot on the floor, so she was 7 of 8, and then she made all of her free throws. She just does so much for this group. And yes, she's a rookie, but she's got a ton of international experience. And I think that she's just fit like a puzzle piece for New York this season overall. I would have her as my 6th player of the year pick. And
Whoa.
luckily that stops before the playoffs. So like it's okay that she's in the starting lineup now because she deserves it. But I just think that she slots so well into this group. She guards her butt off. Her mid-range shot looks so clean. Her three-pointer is obviously a really good shot too. I think she just makes really good decisions on the floor. She's a really good passer. She pretty much has all the skill sets that you need to properly fit in with this
Mhm.
group. And to be a player that had 21 points in their first playoff game for this team, I think was just absolutely incredible. She met the moment at Barclays Center, and I just think that that to me is like the first thing that super like stood out to me from this game.
I absolutely love this take. Yeah, I think watching her take that moment and absolutely thrive is amazing. I think Brundella putting her in was really cool, and that's one of those like it's the playoff moments where I mean, maybe people who are more tapped in with the Liberty are like knew this was coming or something.
Mhm.
I definitely did not. I think it was one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, you know that's a thing, I guess. Let's see how it works. And it just like worked marvelously. And for a team like the Liberty that has no discernible problems, to sort of just be like, no, no, we're making an adjustment. We're not waiting for like a bad quarter. We're not going to um just like we're gonna hit the ground running, and we're gonna like give Atlanta the business, and take this game seriously, and not assume that like we can like find our way into the series. Uh, and for anyone that's kind of new-ish to the the first round series are all 3 games. And that's changed from recent years where it was actually, it's been knockout in the past, which is I'm
God, remember those days? Those were
yeah,
crazy.
it's insane. Like I like knockout like in like elimination like World Cup soccer type stuff, but like I feel it's like it's just not fair to what the regular season represents, in my opinion. Like I
Yeah.
like I feel like you earn a series, and I'm pro all of the series being longer in general, but yeah, I really think that the Liberty came out and just well, yeah, I don't know when they missed their first shot, and I think they hit their first 7 shots.
It was a while in, yeah.
And they just kind of like set the tempo right away. Like, to your point too about like Fibic and like, coming in for Sloot. Like there's also the veteran part of this where Sloot clearly was part of the game plan, was like super down to come in and be like an awesome like bench sub. She didn't really like light it up statistically. But she like did her thing. And what was the vet out there? And at one point when Atlanta, I think that they had a stretch in like the third and fourth where they were doing some stuff. Like the game was never really getting very close, but they might have pulled it to 14 or 12, so
Yeah, they made it
something like
closer
that.
at
Yeah.
some point. Yeah.
Um, and the announcer was like, um, yeah, and the Liberty don't even have any starters out there. And then like my brain clocked, but like Vandersloot's out there. And then I was sort of like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, right. Oh, they made this change. And um yeah, no, I think that's a really good observation from the Liberty perspective. Um Stewie looks like nasty. Um, but I mean,
Right?
that's
Like,
not
the
like a new
difference
thing, but
between last year and this
yeah.
year in the playoffs has been huge. I mean, she had 20 and 11, like, is so clearly much more comfortable than she appeared to be last year, and, like, I don't know, I can't really speak to, like, why that is. It just seems that this group has been clicking more, and, like, even talking about them coming out of the gate and, like, making all of their shots within the first however many minutes of the game, like, Sabrina Ionescu, like, right off the bat,
Mhm.
she knocks down the floater, she knocks down the 3, she finishes with 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and I think that's also part of the reason why Sloot being benched is actually been fine because
Mhm.
Sabrina's been so comfortable like moving into that point guard position where like early on in her New York career that wasn't really the case and she was struggling with the pressure that kind of came with that. But now because you have Sabrina being comfortable on the floor as like that facilitator who can also score, Sloot leading the bench just like makes sense. And so I think like all these different things have worked for Liberty and like in year 2 of like being this squad together has just been so well. And I think they haven't even hit their ceiling yet. Like they looked great in game 1, but Nyjah still doesn't look fully comfortable. We're due for like a Jonquel Jones big game. So like
Mhm.
I'm interested to see like what happens in the second game against Atlanta because there's a lot left for this Liberty's ceiling.
Yeah, so, about Atlanta, I think they are a good team, and I think
Mhm.
so sometimes in a blowout, the tendency is to be like, yeah, the other team's, like, just like a pushover sort of thing, but, I think Atlanta is good. They just have so much. I don't know, they have like, it's like I feel like they need a game where they shoot out of their minds to even be in it,
Yeah.
with the Liberty. I don't know. I thought Howard was okay. I thought Charles was good. Um, but I mean, I think the Liberty have just been on like a revenge path this whole year, and I really don't think this is like, if there's one series that is for sure not going to 3 games, it's this one. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything's ever like 100% set in
Sure.
stone
Yeah.
because anything can happen. I think also like on Atlanta's side with like them being a little bit quieter on the shooting front in game 1, I think that also just kind of spoke to the Liberty defense. I thought they did a good job of like mixing it up. They did a lot of trapping. That's why like Ryan was a little bit quiet as well.
Hmm.
Like you mentioned Tina Charles did well. I think she continues to be like the X factor veteran for this team. She's been amazing. There's a couple of things, that I kind of observed from Atlanta side as well. I think Jordan Kando was quiet on the scoring end, but her defense was actually pretty good. She's pretty feisty on that end of the floor. It just gets overshadowed by the Liberty being awesome. And then yeah, I think like Big Alicia Gray, she's gonna need to knock down some more shots if Atlanta wants a chance to kind of like battle back and force a game 3.
Hmm.
But yeah, I also think in like we're Canadian, so I'm gonna bring the Canadian bias. Let's see, yeah, Emma here. She played 10 minutes. She had 8 points, 5 rebounds.
Yeah.
Tanisha, Coach Tanisha needs to play her more minutes.
I love it.
I am so like on this, and like yes, I'm a little bit biased because I have worked with her before, but at the same time, it's just like I know, like, we all know what she's capable. We've seen flashes of that. She puts in the work. She needs those reps on the floor. She was so efficient for you in those 10 minutes of play. I think, especially when you have, other players being more quiet on the shooting side of the floor, I think it's time to bring her in more and just give her more minutes because I think she can be super impactful if you give her that chance. And so, yeah, I think prediction wise, I think New York wraps this up in 2. We're on the same page again on that. But we did see that Atlanta has the ability to kind of battle back within the game itself.
By the way, that sound you heard, if you're listening, is just all of Mississauga just
So
going wild when Crina was stumping for Emmy here. That's a bunch of people at like really long crosswalks with like 7 lanes on each side, just being like fired up, getting ready for some Mississauga transit. But yeah, like I agree, and I think if you're Atlanta, you've battled so hard, and you've been through so much to get to this point that you should look over on the other side and be like, wow, the Liberty are taking us serious because we are serious. So
yeah,
like, let's like I think there's a difference between being like making aggressive changes and panicking. And I think, like, for instance, like, yeah, 10 minutes, you really showed up, in the game, and you didn't look phased by the moment. So yeah, if I'm coach, I'm playing Emmy here, what, I don't know, like, what, 17, 20 minutes, or at least give her the chance to prove you wrong, you know?
And I'd say 8 points and 5 boards in 10 minutes is a pretty good start.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
So,
what if
imagine what
that,
she could do with more minutes.
yeah, like, what if that doubles, you know? 16 and 10, like, in 20 minutes. That's how stats work, right? They just double if you get more
Yeah.
minutes sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's jump to game two, which, I mean, in classic Caitlin Clark fashion, uh, you can assume the discourse is nuanced, and people are being really chill about it. But yeah, where should we start with the Sun and Fever? I mean, I feel like, we are a podcast, so we will be nuanced. So I think let's give the Sun, uh please jump in if you're like, no, this isn't the angle, because, like, we'll get to Caitlin in a minute, but I feel like let's give the Sun their due. They're a real, they've been like a contender for years. They're amazing. And Thomas put on a, like, just an all around, passing display. The, like, Bonner was 7 and 11, 7-11 from the field, and Carrington was balling, and, like, they're just like a really, they could win the championship. And I don't, if you're following this league, like, you wouldn't be that surprised. Like, yes, I think that, there's a couple teams that people would pick over them, but uh I think, to me, this is less about the Fever than it is the Sun. Like, I think if you're a W fan, you this doesn't surprise you at all.
Almost as if they were the higher seed, Freddie.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
almost as
right.
if.
I
It's
know.
almost as if they were higher and did better during the regular season, and, like, in addition to all those players that you mentioned, Marina Mabrey goes off for 27 points, which was huge for this Connecticut Suns, win, because if you think about it, like you said, they've been a contender for a few seasons now, haven't really been able to get there. I think this trade for Marina Mabrey mid-season was one of the smartest things they could have possibly done,
Yeah.
because especially when you have another player like Ty Harris go down in the middle of the game, who knows how severe her injury is. You need people on the offensive side. We know Connecticut is really good on defense, and we saw that with Caitlin's kind of rough shooting night and some of the other Indiana players as well. Um, you need good offense as well. And so that's what Marina brings. She brings a level of shooting that the Sun have needed for a while. And I just think that they're really well put together. And it makes sense that they came out and played this way. You can also chalk it up to experience if we're talking about them being a
Mhm.
contender. And Indiana's, it's their first playoff berth in a really long time. And especially for all the players on the roster, it's their first time playing together in a playoff game. So I just think there's a lot of nuance and a lot of factors here, and so yeah, I'm not surprised. I think this is exactly how the first game should have gone for Connecticut, and I think now Indiana is going to make adjustments, but we'll see how the game goes because I can't say I can predict this one because I don't think Caitlin's going to have another rough shooting night like she did in this first game.
I don't think so either. And I think she's proven that she is a big game player, and can deal with, like, a lot of contact and a lot of attention and game planning. I think the playoffs are very different. The one thing I'll say about the Sun that I'm interested to see, and this is like I don't know if it's going to manifest now, but I thought about it a lot, with the Liberty and the Aces, with their respective runs last year. And when a team is like has really big minutes for their starters, I always kind of wonder how that's going to play out, if there's an injury, if someone's, like, has an off night. And, like, just, we won't go back to it, but, like, thinking about what the Liberty did with Vandersloot, it's like, that to me is like such a longevity play, where that really puts you in a good position later on. And
Yeah.
obviously, if you're the Sun, you're not thinking past the series, but Yeah, I'm just looking at the minutes. Veronica Burton and Olivia Nelson Adota, 19 minutes and 13 minutes respectively. But this starting lineup was all really big minutes, and I mean, I'm just like noting that for the future.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there's definitely like a couple of teams where if they go down one person even that's in their core, they're in a little bit of trouble. Obviously don't want anything to happen to any of
Hmm.
these players, but um I thought also, just as an aside, I thought Veronica Burton's minutes were great. I love to
They
see
were,
those
yeah.
increase. I think she was feisty. I think she did a lot of really cool things in that game. And so yeah, I think especially now we'll see what the status is with Ty Harris, but if you can get Veronica Burton more minutes as well too. I think that'll help just with like the team being more well-rounded and rested. I mean, Las Vegas, when that whole like situation was happening, like the players were saying, "We want to play these minutes. Like we're not
Oh,
tired.
for
Like it's
sure,
all
for sure.
good." But yeah, it is a valid point, I think. And like we'll see. Steph is a good coach, so I think they'll be okay. But yeah, interested to see game two. Kelsey Mitchell, Indiana is like guys, like, like people got mad when I said this on like my own podcast last week, or like
Hmm.
we talked about how Kelsey is like one of the most underrated shooters in the W, and people got so in their feelings because they were like, "Are you just like making fun of us casuals because we don't know all these players?" And I'm like,
No,
"Well,
it's
if you
real.
want to include
Mm.
Caitlyn in the conversation, you got to include her other half because they have literally been each
Yes,
other's mirror this
yes.
season in terms of shooting. They have been carrying the Indiana offense. Like it's literally been like averaging 20 and 20. So just put some respect on Kelsey Mitchell's name because she was hooping for Indiana, even though it was a tough loss.
Yeah, I think I really like how you said that because yeah, I feel like anytime it's hard to have nuanced conversation about Indiana. It just is. And I've been trying to strike this balance all year on this podcast with like incorporating new fans and like not like pouncing on them because like we want new fans, and then also like empathizing with older fans who are in a lot of ways, like, justifiably frustrated, but, a part of a growing sport is like bringing in new takes, right? And like people need to get fixated on a superstar sometimes to, get like I can't tell you how many friends who that I have that like came into this year being like, I'm obsessed with Angel and I'm obsessed with Caitlyn. And now their sort of cast of characters in the W has grown. So like that does happen for a lot of people. Like that is how a lot of
Mhm.
get into sports. But yes, just a mini tangent there. But yeah, with Mitchell, I might be wrong here, but I feel like I heard that she is the second leading scorer after the Olympic break, behind Asia.
Sounds
And
right to me.
yeah, so like she and her and Caitlyn, like they are a unit. Like I really like how you brought up that they're like a mirror of
They've
each
been like
other.
mirrors, yeah.
Because when you're like have the vision that Caitlyn does, and you're just like this insane passer, you need a gunner. You need a bunch of gunners, and like to also rack up assist numbers. Like anyone that's a big basketball fan, you need people to hit buckets. Like there's a lot of good passers in basketball history that don't have good assist numbers because they don't have people who can actually finish the play. And Mitchell is a finisher, like as a finisher's finisher. And yeah, 9 for 20 in a loss, like that's like she showed up, and everyone has like I'm looking at the plus minus, like everyone has like pretty negative plus
Yeah.
minuses because it was kind of a beatdown, but like yeah, like how do you feel about Boston and Clark? Like what's your takes on sort of both of their first playoff games?
I think Aaliyah had a great game. Honestly, like I think she had 17 points or something like that. I think honestly, like if she's more assertive, it'll be even better. But I think what I noticed with Aaliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark is just noticing the patience in their pick and rolls, like when they're playing with each other. I think that has grown so much this season. We were all so excited about what that fit was going to look like, and you can tell that they've been working very hard at it. And so I think in this game too, they're going to bring it even more because I think Aaliyah just had a really good start as well. I think what I also want to see from Indiana in game two is more minutes for Nalissa Smith. What are we doing here? She played like 9 minutes. Like,
9 minutes.
I think when
One
you're playing
shot.
against a team, one shot, when you're playing against a team like the Connecticut Sun, who have that size, who have that annoying defense, you need someone like Nalissa Smith. Like, she is a really good player. She has the size that you need against that team, especially when someone like a Caitlin Clark or Lexi Hull or all these other players, if they're having a poor shooting night, then you got to address your game plan. And I think that's what I'd like to see in game two is more of Nalissa Smith. Because yeah, I don't think she got enough minutes in this first game.
And yeah, I think listeners of the pod and in general will be curious to know what are your. Well, I'll jump in first. I feel like I'll take the Caitlin Clark bullet. Yeah, it's like it's a high pressure scenario, right? And there's a lot of focus on you, and you're predominantly an offensive player, and you're handling the ball a lot. The attention's on you, and these aren't excuses, but I feel like 4 for 17 is a rough shooting night.
You
That's
also
just
have Dejanay Carrington on you, who has some of the best
yeah,
defense in the league, on the ball defense in
exactly.
the league. So it's tough. It's tough, and it's not like. And sorry, not to cut you off, but like
No, no, all good.
Caitlin, I think like has also been successful like driving to the rim and driving to the basket, but it's also hard to do against a team like the Connecticut Sun. So it's like pick your poison, right? Like, do I keep trying to shoot from the free three, or do I try to go in, draw fouls, all that fun stuff? So I do get it. It's a tough matchup because it is the Connecticut Sun, but these are interesting things to think about.
And to all the Caitlin Clark fans, I'll say this: part of the reason you like her is like she's tough, she's crafty, and she is one of the most competitive players I've ever seen. So I am very excited for her game too. I think she's going
Yeah.
to find a way to be more effective. Yeah, in
I
like
think
yeah,
this game will be a lot closer
me
than
too.
the first one. I don't know.
Um,
I don't know which way it goes, but I think it'll be a lot closer.
Me too. I think Indiana deserves to be here, and I'm excited for them. Uh, put like if I'm calling a prediction, I think it's still. I called this in 3 games initially for the Sun, but I am a little bit sort of recency bias leaning. I think because it was such a big win, I'm feeling like a closer loss is in store for Indiana. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, I kind of hope I'm wrong because 3 games of the series would be fun.
And it'd be interesting because I don't know if Connecticut wants it to go to three. So
Yeah, they
we'll
do
see.
not want to go back to Indiana. Like if they going
Mm-mm.
back to Indiana would be that's like it's on and it's going to be like that
It was already
arena.
so loud, like inside Mohegan. I don't even
Yeah,
want to think about what the atmosphere is
I
going to
know.
be like in Indiana.
Although Kathy Engelbert, which I know you're listening, Kathy wants it to go to Indiana. She'll probably be there. Um, okay, let's do Phoenix, Phoenix, Minnesota. This was the closest game. Well,
Yes.
yeah, sorry. Seattle and yeah, well, we'll get to Seattle
Yeah.
and Las Vegas, which was close as well. But this like had I think it was a 23-point
Oh
comeback.
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
that just doesn't happen. That's like, especially with 10-minute quarters, like that was an insane comeback. I was really kind of shocked, even though you shouldn't be shocked at like, Tarasi and Phoenix making a run like this. But yeah, I'll just say this before I let you jump in. I think the veteran toughness of Phoenix was really impressive to me, but also the Lynx are such a complete team, and their composure at the end of this game was massive. And since we're shouting out Canadians, that shot by Carlton was bonkers. Like that to me is like just such a big money shot. Like it was. I again, I was watching a lot of this at like on set, and I stood up. I was eating a tuna sandwich, and I stood up and yelled, and someone said quiet on set, and I said, okay, I will be quiet, but I just saw something crazy.
Bridget Carlton is here. She has arrived. The peak form of her game is here. She's hit two really important daggers in the last week, and I've had so much fun watching her play.
Mhm.
Obviously, that Canadian connection, but just like watching her grow and develop into the player that she has for Minnesota this year. I think like she's put in the time, she's been there for so long, and to see this finally come to fruition in a year where they are a serious contender, I think makes me super happy. I think if there was a game that the Mercury needed to steal, it was this one. And I think they regret this loss
Yes,
heavily. To come
for
back
sure.
from 23 to lead during the game and to let this one slip, I think that's a tough one. That's a tough one to swallow. But I mean, you just look at this Lynx team. We talked about BC. Fee continues to be an absolute superstar. She's the first player to have a 30-plus point game in the playoffs since Maya Moore in Lynx franchise history. If you're in the record
Wow.
books next to a player like Maya Moore, you are doing something right. So I just think like she's been phenomenal. Was the second place vote for MVP that
Mhm.
Asia won, and it was deserved. I think
Yeah.
like if Asia wasn't, the player that she was and like the GOAT that she was, I think this would have been fees to have. But you talked about, Minnesota just being such a complete team. You look across the board, like they've all been fantastic fits. Alana Smith had some crucial blocks late there in the fourth to kind of help them seal the victory. Courtney Williams has just been so
Oh my
impactful.
god.
I
Like,
absolutely
talk about
love her.
highlights.
Like
That
incredible.
pass.
She literally like she sat for a little bit and like things started to go haywire. The second she was put back in, it was like, okay, we're back to being level-headed and cool and like we can close this out. Maisha Hines Allen, another really good trade, that I think the Lynx like have really done well with her too. I think she's been a great fit. And obviously like K-Mac just being the consistent veteran on this team as well. I think there's so many things that went well. And I think they look at this first game being like, we let things slip. That
Mhm.
is not okay. We need to get back to our stellar defense that have like put us as like one of the best defenses in the league. Do that in the next game, not allow Phoenix to come back.
Yeah.
And just kind of wrap this up in two because man, oh man, did things almost get scary in Minnesota for a
Oh,
bit. But
they for sure did get scary. Like, I think a couple things. This was a foot off the gas, like a
oh
classic
yeah.
sports foot off the gas. Like they were cruising. And credit to Phoenix. Phoenix took advantage of that, and coming back from a lead that big, like that's not just a team letting off the gas. Like that's you sort of wiggling your way into the game and
Mhm.
like needling the other team and sort of, um,
Natasha Cloud like had 33 points. Like they
yes,
all
like,
have like individual stars who like are really, really good.
yeah, Cloud was on fire. I always gotta say this because when Cathryn listens to this, she's gonna laugh. But when the preseason exhibition game was in Toronto, me and Cathryn, this was our first like media availability with the W, and we were both, we had met you before, but like this was like a proper meeting, and like it was
Mhm.
exciting, and we were just like jacked and like didn't really have like a full game plan, and we're just like happy to be there and like excited. And she was like, okay, like who, like what are we gonna do? I was like, we gotta like talk to some of the players and like coaches and stuff. And she was like, okay, you go. And I was like, she sort of like pushed me forward, so I was like, all right, fine. And the first player I talked to was Courtney Williams. Okay, so I admittedly am nervous. I've like I admire Courtney Williams. I think she's like cool, and like it's one of those things where you meet someone in person and you're like, oh, like right away I'm like, okay, she's cooler than me. It's all good. Um,
Mhm.
but I still have this like thing that like eats at me because one of my questions was, um, I basically phrase it like, you're a scorer, but like you're going to be handling the ball a lot this year. This was, she's playing for the Sky. Yes,
Sky,
yeah,
yeah.
she's playing for Sky. And you're going to be handling the ball. Like, do you feel like you're gonna like there's going to be like some point guard vibes? And she just like was like stone cold, gave me the like I'm a shooting guard, like that's what I am. And then I remember feeling like I went all flushed. I was like so embarrassed, and I was like, oh my god, like it was one of those moments where I was like, but she was like smiling, like she was like playing with me because she could tell I
Mm-hmm.
was nervous. But like I want to meet her again and be like, but you do point guard things as well. I was right.
She just had her career line assist last week. Like,
yeah. And but it was just one of those things where I was like, but like I just had this moment where I'm like, but I do know your game. Like I do. Um I didn't come off as confident, and you read that, but like I've been watching you. So okay, that's my Courtney Williams story aside.
listen,
Uh
if we're telling Courtney Williams stories, like she's one of my favorite interviews to do. She's also the only W player that currently follows me on social media, so I feel like I can,
Huge.
hold that high. But so that same year, like when we were in Toronto, I did a bunch of fun stuff with the Chicago players, just like
Mhm,
asking them like Canadian trivia
mhm.
questions, and she like had it with me, like in a jokey way though. And I remember just like I was asking them to guess like what a toque was, and like they had no idea.
Yeah.
And like she's like trying to guess, and she's like asking me, and like me and like Chelsea, friend of the pod, we're like trying to explain to her what it is, but we're like also kind of stumbling. And then I just remember her going, "Y'all don't even know what it is." And I was just like so embarrassed.
Okay,
And I was
wait.
like,
So we were both embarrassed. Okay, this is good. This makes me feel good.
yeah, yeah. But no, she's like honestly like such a hoot, and like even seeing her in practice, then 100% she brings these vibes to Minnesota as well. Like she's a team player. She is the energy that like you need to have on a team, and I think is a big reason why their chemistry has worked so well.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's our Courtney Williams stories. And like it
Huge.
fully is relevant to like just how good she's been on the court
Yeah.
and also off.
Also, it is like one of my favorite things in basketball when someone makes an incredible pass and celebrates before the person they like made the pass to scores the bucket. Like the pass is so good that they're celebrating, and like the audience gets to like be in on that, and like wow, you just like you're so many steps ahead of everyone else. You just did something electric. We all get to celebrate before the thing actually happens, or like those types of moments other than like a really block, which blocks are probably like my other main favorite basketball highlight, and you shut out those
Mhm.
Smith, those late game blocks. Um, so yeah, Lynx cruising, Titans cruise, uh, Phoenix. I haven't heard people talk about this, and I feel like because of her status, it just like it can't really be unsaid. But like, what do you? I'm hesitant to be like, "What do you think's going on?" Like, she's fine, but like, also, what do you think's going on with Brittany Griner? Like what? Like, we know that she can have a bigger impact
Yeah.
on a high stakes game than she
Yeah.
had.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I wish I had a smarter answer than I don't know. I think like I'd actually place it in a similar tier as like Aaliyah Boston, as like wanting to see these players be more assertive, and like we know BG can do that. So it's interesting, and I think like this was also a game where because they crawled back, I think it was a good opportunity for us to see more from her. Um, but I don't know. We'll see what happens in this next game, because I just have a feeling that Minnesota's defense is going to crank it all the way back up. So
Mhm,
I don't know if we see a BG resurgence in game two to kind of help that. But that is something that I think is a big reason why Phoenix has struggled a lot as of late. I just think
mhm,
they haven't looked together on defense. And like she's supposed to be kind of the anchor of that. So it is a tough situation, and it's a tough question to figure out. But yeah, I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Also, I didn't have time to verify this, so like I'm hoping that you saw it as well. But Was that Collier quote real? So there was a
Okay.
is
Okay.
that
The
because
one
like that
about DT?
yes,
Okay.
because it gave me like maybe this is fake vibes, and then I didn't have time
No, you know what it was?
to
It
actually
was a
check it.
quote taken out of context because the
Mm,
tone is not correctly conveyed in just, like, writing out the
got it.
quote itself. She was 100% joking in the presser, and for those who missed it, she just joked. Somebody asked her if, if she thinks DT is retiring or, like, what's going on, and Fee basically was just like, "Oh, I don't know, but I hope we, like, end her career on Thursday," or, like, whatever the next day that they're playing, Tuesday or whatever it was. She was fully laughing. She was fully joking.
Yeah, I
But
assume, like, come on.
the problem is, like, these quotes get taken, like, literally because they're typed out, so if you don't watch the presser or if you're not in the presser, you completely miss the tone of a lot of what these players are saying, and that's part of why there's been such a big problem with aggregation and, like, quotes being
Mhm,
taken out of context this season, just, like, adding fuel to the fire, which is why I usually just tend to, like, keep scrolling or ignore it to try not to let it get to me because there's, like at that point, you can't control it anymore. If a quote gets put and shared out of context, then people are going to run with it because that's what they want to do anyway. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But she was 100% joking. I also think it's weird that like Phoenix Mercury Socials has like been soft launching Diana's retirement, and it's like a weird situation of like they keep like doing this like campaign if this is it like for the end of the regular season like come watch her play, and it's weird because it's like well she hasn't officially said anything,
mhm.
but there is a chance that she could be retiring, so like we want to properly give her her flowers, so it's like this weird like limbo area where you're giving her flowers if she is going to retire, but if she's not retiring it's a little bit awkward. She could be like oh if this is it like come celebrate DT. But yeah, either way, what Fee said was a joke. Yeah, 100%. I watched her answer in the presser, and she was laughing the whole time, and everyone was laughing the whole time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, if you're
I
not
was like,
like
what do you want her to say? Do you want her to be like,
yeah.
yeah,
No,
I
I
hope
like
Diana Taurasi like wins against us? Like,
exactly, like
why would she say that?
and also, if you're one of those people like, "Oh, don't give Diana fuel," it's like, Diana doesn't need fuel. It's Diana
She
Taurasi,
all she
like,
needs is
it's
a
all
door.
good. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Um, yeah, the soft launch thing is funny, I think, like, in my time, being, like, like, really covering the league, you've seen, like, Fowles and Bird, and, Bird had the doc, and then, Candace was like, "Is it actually happening?" And, "Oh, crap," like, "Okay, it's happening."
Hmm.
But Diana, I could definitely see being that type of player that is sort of like, I'm not gonna talk about it, like, I'm just gonna, like, you know, if I can do it, I'm gonna do it. If I can't, I'm done, like, that sort
Hmm.
of thing. I guess Candace was like that as well, but Candace is so in the
It was,
media that it's
and it
different.
was also, I think, with Candace, it was like less in her control just because she was dealing with that foot injury, and I just think she, like, really tried to go until she couldn't, so I think that was also part of it, so, like, s
Mhm.
part of it is tough, like, it's unpredictable stuff can pop up, so I don't know. Each player has their own way of soft launching or hard launching their,
Yeah.
retirements, but it's still weird, like, nonetheless, like, watch them retire.
It is, yeah. Just, and to W fans, like, just appreciate the greats because, they, like
This is why we yell at you about Asia Wilson, period, like,
yeah, exactly, like,
this is why.
enjoy someone in their prime too, like, okay, yeah, let's go to Storm, Aces last game. It was a really good game. I mean, I don't know how many lead changes, a lot of lead changes. I thought that, I don't know. I thought it was pretty up for grabs, and I think the the player that stood out to me the most was Chelsea Gray. I've been waiting all season
She's
for
back.
she's back, and she
She's
did
back.
it, and talking about like being unpredictable and injuries, uh, it's never a given that someone's body is going to participate and they're just going to be able to turn it back on and like be electric and like hit all these middies and also because I referenced Courtney Williams, like celebrating before you finish the play is like so good and like I need that moment on loop forever of her like sitting down and like basically like dancing, and like it's like she did it like a compass dance. She was like, I got to do one for the north side of the arena, south, west, and east. And it was electric. Like if you are an Aces fan, you've been waiting for this. Yeah, the whole season.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the main takeaways for me. I even tweeted playoff Chelsea Gray is back with a bunch of
Mhm.
eyeball emojis because I'm goofy like that. But I think this was an interesting one. I think the 4 or 5 matchup in the playoffs is always one of the closer series. And I think we saw that. I did have some questions about Seattle kind of heading into this. And I think we still saw some of that, like Joel Lloyd not being at full strength, Ezzy McGlure not playing. It was just not announced. The Seattle Storm sent out a press release saying that their injury report for Game 2 is clear. So we know that Ezzy is active and will be back. And I think her being back to kind of anchor Seattle's
Mhm.
defense is going to be huge. And I think in this game specifically, like Game 1, them only scoring 2 points in the 4th quarter or whatever it was, that killed them. That killed them for execution, to finish out the game, and it was a little bit, anticlimactic. On the Aces side, Tip Hayes, I mean, we've been talking about players like Marina Mabrey, Maisha Hines-Allen, like, all these, like, player additions who have helped their teams. Tip Hayes has been that for Las Vegas this season. I think her coming out of retirement and announcing that she was
Yeah.
signing with Las Vegas shocked everybody. I don't
Yeah.
think anybody saw that coming, but she had 20 points. I mean, she looked phenomenal with them. And like we talked about, the minutes being heavy for the Vegas starters over the last couple of years. I think bringing her in has helped with that. It also helps because Kelsey Plum had a horrible game, point
Yeah.
blank.
Yeah.
I think
One for 8 is rough.
she really struggled, and, I think, for the Aces, they're probably happy with the fact that Jackie Young look a little bit more comfortable, after her going through some struggles late in the season. Yeah, but Seattle side, I think with Ezzy back, they're in a good position to take game 2 and make this a 3-game series. I think selfishly, I would like to see this go 3 games just because I think it's such a phenomenal matchup. And yeah, I mean, you think about Aces Storm also kind of being rivals. Like you think about their playoff series just a couple of seasons ago, just how cutthroat that one was. So I feel like we're in the deja vu. We're seeing it happen again. And Asia Wilson, I mean, how do we get this far without talking about Asia Wilson? Like
I know.
when Vegas was struggling, she did what an MVP does and picked this team up and put it on her back and carried them through to get that win. And I think that just speaks volumes to how Vegas has been the last like few seasons with her kind of like leading the way. And yeah, if I'm Seattle, I'm scared of elimination, but also knowing that with Ezzy back, things get a little bit more even and spread out.
Asia's so good that if you look at her stat line, you're like, oh, you know, 21-8. I guess, yeah, that's like pretty good. And then like you just sort of like keep looking and you're like, 5 block shots? Good God. Like there isn't a game where Asia isn't like just like otherworldly. I also feel like, you brought it up in the first especially with the first series and the Liberty. Um and obviously we're staring down the barrel at a potential like rematch of Aces Liberty in the semifinals, which is insane. But we'll take our time. We're not there yet.
We'll cross that bridge when we get
Yeah,
there.
we'll cross that bridge. But the Aces defense, like I'm looking there. So one player in the entire Storm lineup shot better than 50% from the field. Jordan Horston, off the bench, who had a nice game, but only 4 shots, and their defense kept everyone below 50%. And like, yeah, that's kind of like how basketball is. Like team, players shoot 40%, like that's good, but usually a player here, player there, a couple players shoot above 50%. So I think that's credit to the Aces defense for making it tough on the Storm the whole game.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited for game 2 though. We're like really, really excited.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pumped too, and there's a couple other things I want to get to. So, Crina, are you down to speed through? Just
Absolutely. Let's do
speed
it.
through some stuff. Okay, so uh, we're talking about Asia. There's like let me just say this. If you go to the WNBA .com Asia Wilson MVP announcement, like I'm honestly not gonna read it all, but just do yourself a favor and read additional highlights of Wilson's 2024 season include, and just like rifle through some of these insane record breaking stats. Like I will read one for you. So she posted the third highest rebounding average in WNBA season, 11.7 behind Angel Reese, which is crazy because it happened this year, and Sylvia Fowles in 2018. So like one of the, just to put that into perspective, like one of the best rebounding seasons we've ever witnessed. So like that's in addition to like other things that she did that were like ludicrous. And I think because of Angel Reese, which was, this isn't to discredit her at all. It's like that was lost. Like, this was a part of like Asia's like MVP package. And yeah, just give me like a couple thoughts on Asia's MVP year.
I think that just speaks to the player that she is and that she has been. I mean, she just does everything, like literally does everything. And you don't come across players like that very often. And that's why I mentioned earlier, that's why we yell at you people about Asia Wilson to appreciate her while she's in her prime. She's put up all these numbers, like any stat, like, and I saw a joke from our friends at Across the Timeline, who's like a great resource for like stats and like historical stuff. Like all the records are like previously held by like players like Candace Parker, like Sylvia Fowles, like all these like legendary players. One day, that's going to be Asia Wilson's timeline, Across the Timeline, because she is going to hold like almost every single record in the history books. And I think that just speaks to like the player that she is. It's her third MVP in 7 seasons. That's 40% of her career. She's been the most valuable player on her team. And you could have argued that she deserved that last year as well. So, like, nearly half of her career, she's been the most important player on her team. And to go with all of that, like the whole like success on the basketball court and the player that she is, to package that with the human that she is as well too. Like she's exactly the leader that this Aces team needs and deserves. She's humble, she's honest, she's vulnerable. She
She's
mentioned in
funny.
that video when she hit that, she's very funny in that video when she hit 1,000 points in one season, which is the record because she said it. Just mentioned like some days she hates being Angel Wilson, and that's really tough to hear. But like it's really cool to see, like superstars be vulnerable like that and be like, hey, I carry a lot. And although it looks like I do it well, there are days when it is hard. And I think like seeing that is really rare from a player who just like is such a good role model and represents like who she is and what she represents is just like it's done really well across all fronts. So yeah, I just think like this season was incredible. It was her best season yet, and she's only got more to go. She's like barely scratching the surface of her prime, which is like scary for the rest of the league.
It's terrifying. And well said, about like her as like the complete package and like, person that she is. One thing I'm not seeing on here that I saw online that I'm just going to throw out, just to give like people perspective, like from a greatness angle. So for folks that have like, like for players that have led their respective leagues in scoring, she has the lowest turnover percentage in the last like 30 years. And the only players that really compare to her as far as turnovers. So this is like you're scoring the most. You're expected to turn the ball over a ton. Is Deladon. I think it was like 2013 or something like that. And then there's 2 Michael Jordan seasons. I should say this is WNBA and NBA. So, and like for players that score that much, it's a fair expectation that they're going to turn the ball over a ton. So like that's the conversation she's in. Like that's the greatness she's in. And it's Michael Jordan, it's Deladon. So that's
Pretty
just
good
a little
company.
pretty good company. Okay. Also, by the way, that was unanimous. Also unanimous. Caitlin Clark, Rookie of the Year. yeah, what's I'll let you sort of give some perspective on this first.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of discourse about, what she was going to look like heading into her first WNBA season. And I think we saw a little bit of a struggle at the beginning, which is totally normal. There's so many factors there. And I think there's so many factors to what has contributed to her, being that front runner for the Rookie of the Year race. She's clearly gotten more comfortable. She's averaging incredible numbers, over 20 points per game, leading the league in assists per game, which is like, when you saw the season end leaders in all categories, so points, rebounds, and assists, two of them were rookies. It was Caitlin and Angel for rebounding and assists, respectively. And then Asia Wilson was leading in points. So that's pretty good company to be in when we're talking
Yeah.
about company leading the league. And just being a rookie leading in a category at the end of a season, I think speaks like tremendous volumes to just like how good of a player Caitlin is. And I hope people stick around for this part of the show where we praise Caitlin and not talk about her shooting struggles in game one
Mm-hmm.
in the playoffs. But I know we talked about like her being the other half of Kelsey Mitchell scoring. I just think that like this has been such an impressive performance from her to bring Indiana to this playoff berth for their first one in a while, to make them competitive, to make them like just believe that they are going to be a successful team. I think she's brought so much to the table, both on and off the court, obviously, but really, really, really has shown out on the basketball. And she's already one of the best guards in the league. So I'm really excited to see where her future it goes. But yeah, I think right now, especially when you look at the rest of the rookie class, I think love deserves to be given to Angel Reese, to Rakia Jackson, to like all these other rookies. But I think when you add in the factor of like how good Indiana has been this season, Caitlin to me is like the clear, winner for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm really glad you mentioned those other rookies who've showed up, and I really feel like it's weird starting praise of Caitlin Clark like with mention of Angel Reese because it's sort of like it's kind of how do you talk about one without the other. But I think this award was interesting because unlike Asia's MVP, this was. If you are a hardcore fan, this was legitimately close for a period of time. And it wasn't like you weren't hating on either if you were sort of appreciating both of their record setting seasons. But Caitlin pulled away. And, I think the post Olympic performances from Indiana, from Caitlin, it was, yeah. I mean, we're watching a phenom. Like she was getting better every game. She was like mapping out the court. Players were starting to be like, man, if I am sprinting down the court after a miss or a make, like I will be found, like Fagbenley, Mitchell, um, uh, Hull. Oh, sorry, I'm blanking out. Hull. Is it
Yeah,
Hull? Yeah,
Lexi
sure.
Hull. Yeah.
Yeah, Lexi Hull. Like everyone just started being like, oh wow, like she will put it right in my hands and I will score. And like that's absolutely electric and she has the whole world watching her. And I think, talking about like being a person as well, just a tremendous amount of pressure. And I feel like to me, the biggest compliment I can give for her is like, I'm so excited for season 2. And I hope that the momentum continues with like less of the divisiveness. And I hope people who came just, sort of like to watch her, like are fans of her and then also fans of the rest of the league. And but yeah, she like she's must watch television. And I mean, it's been fun doing a W podcast, like, with her in the league. So shout
Yeah,
out.
for sure.
Um, Okay, let's do these last two questions. So just yeah, we usually do like badass player of the week, but this week it's just gonna be like who had the best game. So
Yeah.
do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I feel like we have a couple of options here. I'll go first. I'll go first, and then you
Sure.
can follow. I'll go with Marina Mabry. 27 points. I think, just talking about what she's brought to the Connecticut Sun and watching that like translate immediately in this first playoff game, and like being one of the reasons, the main reasons why Connecticut won with such emphasis. I just think she was phenomenal. I mean, like just lighting it up from all sides of the court, and doing exactly what they needed. So she's one of my badass players of the week. But I have a feeling you have another one that I would also agree with.
Yeah, so mine's Cloud. And I think Collier is like, we were both talking about that, but like Cloud, to me, this is just like a personal thing. Like I feel when a player just can't miss, I know that feeling of rooting for a team and you're down big, but then you have this one player on your team that like won't miss a shot, and the shots get like more and more like audacious. Like it's just like that it got to a point where she was just sort of like trotting down the court, like jacking up threes, and they were all going in. And I mean, I'm looking at her game. I'm like, how is it only 4 threes? But yeah, I guess she just got a variety of buckets, to 10 assists. And like, yeah, so Cloud, massive, massive game. Me and Cathryn were talking a little bit about how we were kind of expecting her to have a bigger season than the one that she had. But yeah, that's kind of mixed in with all of the Phoenix, I don't know,
Yeah.
chemistry, confusion stuff. But whatever, it's the playoffs. She showed up. She had a massive game. So Cloud's my badass player of the week.
For sure. And then we both co-signed Nafisa Collier as well.
Yes.
38 points, 6 boards, 4 assists. Just absolutely incredible. Don't get it twisted. That's our like badass player of the week.
That's
There we go.
the badass player of the week. Yeah, she's like the So if you're out there and you're being like, why is it not Collier? It is Collier. We're just sort of like
We had 3 players this
we
week.
got
It's
3
fine.
players. It's all good. Okay, so time for the Freddie's Fun question. I think I got a good one. I feel like you probably got a really good one. So I'll let you go. I'll let you go first. Set me up for I'll try and match the energy. But so my fun question is, I want you to invent an award and then tell me who gets it.
So the award that I'm inventing is the award for the best celebration after a blocked shot, after an
Love
and one, after just like any like cool thing that you just did on the court. And the player that wins it, to me, is Dejanay Carrington of the Connecticut Sun because of her seatbelt celebration after a block. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but make sure you go to the Sun socials. But she will literally do this thing where, and if you're watching on YouTube, you're about to like watch me do it. She had a huge block in the first game of the playoffs, and like she's been doing this for like a while now, so it's like a recurring celebration. She does a seatbelt celebration and she'll stop, she'll find a camera and she'll go like this, like she's putting on a seatbelt, and she does it with such emphasis. It is so cool. Like it is
I love
so
it.
so cool, and like it's just amazing. So I think she would win the best celebration following a cool shot or a block or whatever it is.
This is fantastic. Like I'm all about, I've always been this way. Sports are here. They're supposed to be fun. They're supposed to be entertaining. And like I mean, athletes do whatever you want, but like I am very, very pro big time celebrations. And yeah, that, especially if you start to get theatrical, I'm all the way in. Mine is also theatrics based. There's been a lot of conversation about Ellie this year, and I think it highlights that. I'm sure there is somewhere like a best mascot, but it's got to be more public. It's got to be like,
Mm-hmm.
there's got to be like a runner up. There has to be like fan voting. And I'm sure there probably is something out there, but like it
I got a runner
really,
up for you for the
okay,
mascot to challenge Ellie.
please. Oh my God, I love
It's
this.
gotta be Prowl, the Lynx mascot. Have you seen their social media? It is hilarious, like
I
hilarious.
I've
They
seen
post like
Prowl,
memes.
but I don't know if
They've been posting like cat memes the last like few days and just like adding the Phoenix Mercury and being like, we're coming for you. And it's like a cat photoshopped with like laser beams coming out of its eyes. And it's legitimately like hilarious. So yeah, Ellie definitely deserves, she takes the cake on that one, but Prowl the Lynx is right after.
Okay, see, this is the mascot conversation I want and need in my life. Um, and it always gets thrown out in a small weird way, but like I am in fact a clown. So this is what I do. I'm a trained clown. I'm all about theatrics, mascot, pumping up a crowd, dance moves. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the pod. Crina, we went long, but this was like there was a lot going on. We had to do it. This was amazing. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for joining the team. It's just really exciting to have you, and I love hearing your takes. And where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Let them know.
Yeah, well, first of all, this is such a blast. Like, could not have asked for a better start to the 2024 playoffs. People can find me on Twitter at Crina MM. You can also find me on Instagram at Crina Mustafa. I tweet a lot. I'll post clips. If Bridget Carlton hits a dagger, it is most likely up on my page. So make sure you go follow. I host a weekly podcast on her hoop stats called Coast to Coast. So if you'd like to hear more WNBA talk and then also college talk once the college season starts, make sure you're subbed in over there and tapped in. And yeah, thanks for having me on. Can't wait to clip the pod.
Yeah, I know. And thanks everyone for listening. And as Crina said, absolute must follow. So make sure you check her out and follow her work. And just one more time, we are at the Pickup WNBA Pod on Twitter, on Instagram, and in at YouTube on YouTube. Also to be found on YouTube, and we will be back next week. We were a day late this week. Sorry about that. But yeah, we will be back next week, coming out on Monday. So, Crina, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you, Cathryn. Get better and enjoy the playoffs, folks. Peace. See ya.